Today is going to be a pre-reading day. So starting tomorrow, you're going to see mini lesson videos of me going over the book, reading it together. But today, because this is our first time using slides, I wanted to go through what each slide's purpose is and why we're doing this activity before we start reading the book. So we're going to start reading the novel One Crazy Summer. And I think it's important that before we jump into the book, we make some connections. So that's what we're going to be focused on today. So you'll open up slides, and your first slide will be here. You will know if you're on the correct slide because it'll have the date across the top. Every slide that you have will have the date across the top along with what are we doing in our novel study. So today is our pre-reading. We are simply going to make some connections with the text, okay? So the next slide that you'll see, and this will be consistent every day, slide 2 will be what are our daily directions? So what are the things that we are going to need to do in order to finish this assignment? So first, we're going to read the daily objective, the standard, the steps, and watch the mini lesson video, which is what you're watching right now while taking notes. So typically, the mini lesson will be me going over a skill. For example, tomorrow, we are going to be going over characterization. So there's going to be some steps and some information that you're going to need to take notes about to help you with your independent practice portion of the lesson. For today, however, the mini lesson, you can take notes about maybe some things that you want to remember, but it's not as important today as it will be in future lessons. So step 2, to complete the independent practice readings are questions. So your independent practice, whatever it may be, today you're going to have some questions based on some quotes, and you'll see we're going to be using Flipgrid. But typically, especially once we start this novel study, you're going to be using annotations. You're going to be using our plan of attack for multiple choice and short responses. And so you're going to need to write certain things down. So your annotations will have to be attached as a photo document, right? Or you can even open up a document and type in your annotations as you read. However, you're more comfortable, we have some flexibility here. So annotations will always have to be completed when we're reading. Answering questions using our plan of attack. So if you have a Google document and it's multiple choice, I suggest that you continue to follow the plan of attack that we were working on before we moved to this online platform. Writing down questions to ask for during the Google Meet is really important because that is going to be a time where we have conversations about the text that we're reading, that you can ask me any questions that you have maybe about the skill that we learned in the mini lesson. And while most of what we're doing is review, we are going to start getting into some things that are going to prepare you for moving on, maybe looking at things in a more complex light, right? So questions are really important to clear up misconceptions. Watch optional videos. So once we start going over some of the skills, so characterization, for example, we're going to have a slide that has extra videos. So maybe you still have some questions after you watch the mini lesson and take notes. There's going to be some extra things that you can watch to help yourself. So I'm going to go ahead and put it out there. Extra credit if you turn in extra work. That's just how we do it, right? So maybe on your independent practice, you get a couple of questions wrong, but you did some extra work. And so that can help you out. It can replace something that you've done in your independent practice. So if you're struggling with the work, I suggest that you use those optional videos. Complete the exit ticket. So you're going to have a slide, as you'll see, that has exactly what you need to do for the exit ticket. This is the part that typically, you know how we do in class. You get a do now, you get a classwork grade, and you get an exit ticket. The only thing that's missing is we're not going to have a do now grade, right? You're going to have a classwork grade, and you're going to have an exit ticket grade. So that independent practice that gets attached and turned in, that's your classwork grade. The exit ticket is going to be your exit ticket grade. And we're doing this, I want both pieces of material turned in because I noticed last week or the week before last, a lot of us were not really doing all of the classwork part, right? We were skipping straight to the quiz and we were trying to rush through it so we could be done. And that's not the purpose of this, right? We definitely need to make sure that we are doing all parts so that we master this skill and that we make the best grade possible, okay? So once you do that, you'll insert the photos of your annotations. Maybe the exit ticket was reading a text, or we're doing novel study. So most of your exit ticket's going to be based on the novel that we're reading. So maybe I'm going to have you read a couple of pages independently. I need to see annotations for that. That will be turned in. Then we are the one thing that I don't want you to forget is click the turn in or mark as done button. Sometimes it turns up a little different. It's always in the right corner of your screen of the assignment. That needs to be done, or you might not get credit because I won't know you turned it in. Really, really important. 7, the Google Meet. A lot of us aren't showing up to these Google Meet classrooms. I would really suggest that you do. This is where we talk about maybe things that are going to start happening in the future. We're starting novel study, so we're going to talk about the book there. It's really important that you show up on time to your meetings. All right, so once you see this will be the same every day in terms of the chronological order that it falls in, what you do first to what you do last. Then we're going to go to slide 3. Slide 3 is going to have your objective. So your objective is going to be our I can statement. If there's a standard attached, which there will be, it will be there as well, our L51 or whichever. This is a speaking and listening standard, so I'll have that listed up here along with our I can statement. And then the steps. What is the expectation for you to show mastery of this particular objective? Or what are the steps you're going to follow in order to complete this? For today's, it's a little bit different because it's not as much a skill as it is an activity that we're completing. So that's your steps listed here. We're going to go to slide 4. So slide 4 will have whatever mini lesson videos. So here I have a how to make a response in Flipgrid. So I show you how to access what you need for your Flipgrid. How do you get to where you need to respond? How do you respond to a classmate? This is another version of our how-to because now it's going to show you how to access other boards. Video 2 is going to go right here. It's the video I'm making right now. This is our mini lesson. Let's move on to 5. 5. This is just an extra slide. So anything that follows my mini lesson up until we get to our independent practice might be scaffold. So maybe it's going to be a graphic organizer I suggest you use. Oftentimes it's going to be, now that we start reading, there's going to be text for you to read and follow along with. Things like that will be in the following slides. Maybe it's going to be links to a text or whatever. That is what will go after you watch your mini lesson video. Then you have your independent practice. So it's kind of like, if you think about it, we have our I do here, our we do. So you would be doing the activities along with me on this slide if it applies. Then you have your you do, right? Your you do is going to be, what is your independent practice task? And for this lesson, the way it's going to work is you are going to identify your group. So you're looking, if you need to reference your schedule, you're all in groups for your Google Meet and you're color coded, right? You're going to use that color code to find which are you going to respond to. So here we have some quotes from the book that you haven't read yet, but we pulled out a couple of quotes, and then you're going to think about these questions. These are quotes that were chosen specifically because they're important and they kind of help us understand our characters even before we read it. So what you're going to do if you were in the green group, right? I'm going to listen to this quote that we have here.
I have to look out for my sisters, you know.
All right, that's our quote. I have to look out for my sisters, you know. And then I'm going to read this question. Have you ever felt responsible for someone else? How did it change your behavior and how did it affect your relationship? So if I need to listen to this quote again, I can. For example, if we look at yellow group, we're going to first click on the quote.
Look out for each other. We have to stand united.
All right. That is a quote from the book. I'm going to read the question that goes along with it. When in your life and in the world do you see examples of unity? What happens when people unite and when they are divided? Right? So these are critical thinking questions. So your response shouldn't just be one-worded answers, right? You need to give me a very substantial question. I need it to be full of your opinions, make connections. So if you look back here at this green slide, these are things to consider when you respond. What connections do you make? So if we look at question 1, sorry, I have to sneeze. Sorry. Okay, so if we look at question 1, the green group, have you ever felt responsible for someone else? Let me look here. What connection can you make? So maybe you've had to watch, we're all home, right? We have to maybe pick up some slack because our parents are still working. Or do you have to look out for a sibling? Or maybe in the past you've had to watch baby cousins. You know, we all have different circumstances. I want you to think about a time where you were someone's caregiver. Okay? What reasons or experiences underpin your opinion? So what makes you feel the way you do, and why is this important to your connection? So here you would answer it. Have you ever felt responsible? In your question, in your answer, you would say something like, yes, I felt responsible for someone else, and then give me some details because I had to watch my baby sister. I helped take care of her while my mom is at work. How did it change your behavior? So the second part of my response would be, it made me have to be more mature and do things that I typically wouldn't choose to do. So instead of playing Xbox or PlayStation, I was making lunch for my baby sister. And how did it affect your relationship? Just answer to that. How did it affect the way maybe your baby sister looks up to you, or your baby brother, or whatever it may be? All right, so you want to make a deep connection. Think critically about these questions. So now, where do we do this response? This is where Flipgrid comes into play. You will click on, so if I'm green group and I am in Ma'arifa, I'll click here and I'll go. That is in your how-to video. So you're going to go ahead and you're going to do this section here. Once you do that, your exit ticket. So for this particular response, your exit ticket is going to be your response to the prompt and your response to the 2 peers. So you have to respond to 2 people who are not in your group, helping answer the question. Maybe you connect with that peer. Maybe I'm talking to one of my classmates. I listened to their video. They said that they also had to take care of their sister. And so now I have a connection with them. And I'm going to say, you know, I relate to this because I also have to take care of my baby sister. And then you can go into answering the questions on your own. Or maybe you're someone who is looking at this question and you don't have someone to watch after. You've never had to be responsible for someone. You could respond saying something along the lines of, while I've never experienced this, I think it's really interesting how it has changed the way that you approach your day, or whatever. However you feel, you want to make sure that your response is substantial. It can't just be great response. You don't get points for that, all right? It has to be a thoroughly answered, well thought out question. Once you do all of these things, click the submit button on the right hand corner of the assignment so I know that you did it. That will let me know I need to go to Flipgrid and I need to look at your responses. And I look forward to you guys making connections, and I really look forward to getting this book. It's one of my favorite books that we read throughout the year. And then if you look at our last slide, it's just a office hours over here telling you can give us a text. It has my number and Miss Smith's number. Those are 4s. I know it's a little weird, but those are definitely 4s. Yeah, so if you have any questions, just reach out. Looking forward to your responses.